The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Listen, the thing is, Elton, when he gets going, a lot of the time, an absurd amount of time if I'm being honest, he curses just like a drunken sailor, you know, a drunken dick of a sailor who has just been kicked in the dick by a hugely muscled asshole. Wait, should I say it that way? Should I say balls instead? Balls? Balls. Big ol' hairy balls. Got it. Balls. He curses like a drunken sailor who has just been kicked in the dick by an asshole's balls. Oop, nope. That's not what I wanted to say. Damn it! No, you know what? To hell with it. I'm sticking with what I got. Yep, dick balls. That's it. Enjoy the show.
At 9:16 a.m., February 28th, 1997, two men named Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Montessori Anu walked into Bank of America Branch 384, located at 6600 Laurel Canyon Boulevard in North Hollywood. The goal, $750,000. It was to be in the vault to cover customer withdrawals, but they wanted it. They had chosen that specific Friday because it was a payday. However, due to a change in the bank's delivery schedule, the vault contained only about $303,305. They were heavily armed and utilized armored vests, and they had a plan. They ultimately failed due to an army of police that, tend to do that when you go firing automatic weapons at them. Still, one takeaway is that they operated similar to the robbers in a very famous film. Police later discovered a copy of the movie Heat in Phillips's home. Apparently, they were obsessed with the movie. This episode is about the novel written as a sequel to that movie. Let's get into some running and gunning, diving behind stuff while cracking off shots and taking out those who would stand in the way between us and those sweet stacks of green. It's cops and robbers today, baby. Shootout kind of stuff. Shoot 'em up, heist stuff. Oh, and that sweet guap. You know what I'm saying? Bands, stacks, racks, whatever you call it. It's millions of dollars is what it is. Plus, we'll do some world traveling, some daring escapes, maybe. There'll be some intrigue and some backstabbing and car chases and burning wreckage. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're doing that today, folks. While also discussing why all of that's probably going to fail as a sequel. I mean, why even try when you know it's going to be received poorly? You'll see. Oh, and should anyone listening take any inspiration from anything I've ever made or put out on this podcast, which you definitely shouldn't, please don't go robbing cartels after you hear what is in this episode, and don't start, organized crime families, or better yet, organized crime family wars. Or get into shootouts with the cops. Please, leave my name out of it, if you would be so kind. Thanks.
This is out to read some book a week. Podcast about books down to read. This is out to read some book a week. Podcast about books and out to read. Yeah, and that's all. Since I'm done.
Under the watchful eyes of Bob Stratos and Apollo, welcome to Elton Reads a Book a Week, a podcast that looks less and less likely to win a Pulitzer Prize for podcasting. Though, I'm still holding out hope for the Nobel. My name is Elton, and I read a book a week. The book this time around is Heat 2, a sequel and prequel to the movie story thing of the movie Heat. You know that movie with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro having the coffee in a diner while threatening each other in not so subtle ways, but also really kind of seeming to enjoy each other's company, like colleagues who really respect each other, but would also, not hesitate to shoot each other in the face any day of the week. But only if they had to, No. No, okay, I think I'm overdoing it. Okay, it's like going out to a nice dinner, sitting down with a relative stranger. Like one you only know from work, like an acquaintance maybe, but you don't really talk too much. And during that encounter, while you're adding sugar maybe to your coffee, you look over at the person across from you, sitting across from you at that table, and you say something like, I could totally see myself shooting you in the face in the line of duty. Oh, hey, look at the menu. They make omelets. And they use real eggs. Ooh. I forgot what I was trying to say with all that. When people talk about heat, they usually start with the meeting. For decades, film geeks had a what-if wet dream about Al Pacino and Robert De Niro being in the same frame in the movie. They'd seen they both actors had been in Godfather Part 2, sure, but they were like ships passing in different timelines. They weren't necessarily right there together, in the moment. In Heat, Michael Mann finally gave us the cinephile money shot, and like any good money shot, he made us wait for it. As we go forward, just know that the heavy-handed sexual innuendo, may or may not continue. I don't know where I'm at yet, and you will know when I do, when I'm there. Okay, look. Okay, when Rob and Al, finally sit down across from each other at Kate Mantilini's I am terrible at Italian names. Kate Mantilini's diner. The world stops when that happens. It's not an action scene, it's two titans realizing they are mirror images of each other, of one another, that they are, you complete me kind of moments, but subtextually. Pacino's Vincent Hanna is a hyper-caffeinated detective whose personal life is a wreck because he's addicted to the hunt, and has a weird, not quite southern accent for some reason or something. It's kind of weird. De Niro's Neil McCauley is a professional thief who lives by a cold monastic code. Don't get attached to anything you can't walk out on in 30 seconds flat. And always speak with a New York accent, especially if you're portraying a murderer. Because as you know, everyone from New York is a murderer/cannibal. It's just proven science.
Still with this New York bit? It's so old, Elton. Can't you come up with anything new? It's like reheating a fart or something. Jeez.
Look, first, you've been doing so well by just leaving me alone, okay? I've been getting so much done.
Oh, sure.
So
much
Seriously,
done.
second,
You've gotten some short ones done. I'd cut the
reheating a
bragging.
fart? What the hell is that about? What the fuck is that? What does that even mean?
Yeah, a reheated fart, because you're just reusing your, you're just reusing the same. It's poop. Recycled poop. It's poop, recycled, reheated poop, smell. That's what you're dishing out. Poop, smelly, poop, smell. Same old poop smell.
Why don't you just say shit like a normal person?
Because unlike yourself, I try to keep my appeal open to a wider audience. You should try it sometime. You might get more listeners. Miracles happen all the time, so I've heard.
The wider audience appreciates poop over shit.
I shouldn't have to say this, but yeah, they do. Not everyone appreciates, because all the people, the audience, they all know that poop is
better than shitting.
Is this really news to you? I'm not here to school you on the finer points of poop. I mean, the PR benefits of saying poop instead of you know what? I'm refusing to engage with this, Elton. I'd like to be off this crazy train of poop. I'd like to be let off this crazy poop train. I cannot believe that sentence just left my mouth.
Hey, you started it.
I don't even remember how any of this.
It's kind of. Look.
I don't think it really matters at this point. Just keep going on with this.
All right, fine. You know what?
This
fine.
episode. You're making my whole brain hurt. So just so bad. It feels like my brain is trying to throb its way out of my skull and escape to freedom right now.
Fine. The Heat is the ultimate professionals movie. It's about the cost of being the best at something that is destined to destroy you. Like being the best fry cook at McDonald's, but with more guns and less suicide. But Heat isn't just a character study. No, it's also a technical marvel, kind of. Michael Mann didn't just direct this movie, he fucking engineered it. When you watch that legendary downtown shootout, like you aren't watching canned Hollywood sound effects. Those are the actual echoes of blanks bouncing off the skyscrapers of Wilshire Boulevard. When you see those cops being shot, those are real cops being shot. No one told them that there was a movie being shot that day. In fact, when everything was wrapped, the cops that hadn't died were crying about their fallen partners and co-workers and friends. And when the actors were signing autographs for them, they were doing so on tear-stained papers. They were like, "I'm so sorry I shot your friend." Or some version of that. I wasn't there. Look, it was a long, expensive, tragic, and very confusing day. And despite being filmed from multiple angles, nobody was charged with murder. Because, to be honest, no one could tell if the actors were mass murdering on purpose or they were just acting really well. Kidding, of course. It would be fucking wild if Michael Mann was that intent on filming realism that he called in real cops and then shot them. Better still, if all you had to do was be a good actor to get away with murdering a bunch of cops, like have a portfolio, have an IMDb profile. IMDb, Elton, to have an IMDb profile and be like, sorry, it was all I was just acting. I was just acting when I killed that motherfucker. When I shot him in the face, I was like, this is how a real killer would do it. It's not my fault that I'm that good at acting. That kind of shit would definitely have your movie, though. It would have your movie in every rotation for the rest of time, if that were the case. If that was what was happening. Oh, yeah, you know it would too. So stop it. Don't act like you're above watching people get murdered on screen for real. I mean, come on. You'd watch it. You'd watch it. Okay, so back to the real world though. The scene was so realistic that the U.S. Marines eventually used footage of that scene to teach recruits how to retreat under fire. That's true. And you can see the DNA of that movie everywhere. I mean, without Heat, you don't get that gritty, grounded Gotham of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, and you sure as shit don't get the high-stakes adrenaline of playing Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, there are heists in there that are pretty much like Heat. It turned the heist movie into an urban opera, something grand and tragic and visually stunning, just pretty to watch. Heat remains the gold standard of that kind of movie. It's a reminder that in the concrete jungle of LA, everyone is looking for something or running from it, you know? And it usually involves some kind of Mexican food and runs of a different kind. The Mexican food in California is the best. Oddly enough, the California food in Mexico, total shit. You heard it here first. Or probably not at all. I don't know. That same theme is carried, of course, to the sequel novel thing of Heat 2. But you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. I really am. First, let's find out about Michael Mann, the guy behind the OG, the original. And then we'll find out about this sequel to the movie. That is a novel or something that's going to be a movie. It is definitely a novel. I know that much because I read it. Still, let's see. Let's see. I feel like I'm insulting him. I feel I'm insulting him by not calling him a genius, but is he? I mean, I don't know. I'm terrible at judging the cultural impact of someone else's work. But still, he's a big deal. The story of Michael Mann is a narrative of, grit, rigorous research. He likes to do that. He likes to do that a lot. And a singular, life-changing epiphany. One that involved violence. No, I don't know. It begins in the inner city of Chicago. A city I'm pretty sure isn't real. I mean, think about it. Have you ever met anyone from Chicago? Like born there? Personally, my theory is that the entire city has been gaslit into existence and is a city filled with animatronics specifically built to kind of look like New York, you know, but with a green river sometimes. And it was built to film movies and TV shows there because New York is A, too expensive, and B, full of degenerate, murdering psychopaths. It's proven science, folks. People know this. There have been studies. Feel free to send me an email if you disagree. I'm sure your evidence to the contrary will be super convincing. Anyway, send all of your made-up proof to Elton Reads a Book a Week at gmail.com. Be sure to put Chicago is real in the subject line so I can throw it away because you're lying to me. You're sending lies. You know. Back to the man, Mr. Mann, the man of Michael Mann, Michaeling Mann. Michael Mann was born on February 5th, 1943. Growing up as the son of a Ukrainian immigrant and wounded World War II veteran, his early years were steeped in a hard-edged, hard-boiled urban environment. That's shorthand for beatings. Like lots of beatings. He was beat like he made up the whole city of Chicago whole cloth. And that was basically New York. Like he just, like, you want to make up? I don't know where Ukrainian accent is. You make up Chicago, you pay. Or something like that. Yeah, it's like he made up a whole city that was mostly New York, but with a green river one day out of the year. Stop lying about your made-up city, Michael. It's not real. You're scaring your mother. His dad would say in a Ukrainian accent I can't do. Okay, Papa, okay. I just wanted to play God and invent a city, Papa. I just wanted to be God. And his dad just kept beating his ass. Of course, that's not real, but I painted a picture, didn't I? How I'm pretty sure Michael Mann just invented Chicago himself. For some reason. Okay. Back to reality. Before Michael Mann ever looked through the lens and invented Chicago whole cloth, he lived the lives he would later film, except the ones that would get you killed. Working as a short order cook, he did that. He was a construction worker for a while, maybe in his fake town of Chicago. Who knows? And he was a cab driver. All of these experiences taught him the tremendous richness of real life struggle. In the early 1960s, Mann was a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, majoring in English Lit. English literature. I know some people who who've gone to school for that. I was going to go to school for that. Hey, whatever. He went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, majoring in English literature with the intent of becoming a professor, just like I wanted to be. Hey, how about that? Yeah, I know. That's code for fucking nerd. Like a book nerd, though. Like a book reading nerd. Of course, he had to go all the way to Wisconsin to do that. He'd get his nerd ass beaten anywhere else. Worse than if he'd lived in the made-up city he gaslight the entire state of Illinois into believing was real. That nerdy, devious prick. Off to Wisconsin with you. Off to the land of cheese and scant humanity. Where there's one person every 600 miles. You fuck Chicago, my ass. His path took a radical turn when he took a film history course on a freezing night at 10:30 p.m. after seeing G.W. Pabst's The Joyless Street. He walked down Bascom Hill and was struck by what he describes as a bolt of lightning. And as would happen, it was a literal bolt of lightning as well. Mann was struck while crossing the empty quad near the center of the campus. He would, after being struck just right near the clavicle, right shoulder, more towards the back, maybe right near his shoulder blade, struck by a bolt of lightning, threw him down to the ground. He had passed. He was instantly out. But he would recover most of his faculties after a 6-month recovery at a local hospital, which isn't too long. But I mean, he did have to learn how to mostly walk again, and for the rest of his life, he spoke with kind of a slur. He speaks with kind of a slur. You can look up interviews. There's a little bit of like a hang in the way he talks. It's once you hear it, it's very hard to you'll know what I'm talking about. Go look up some interviews. But for the rest of his life, whenever there was an electrical storm outside or any kind of electrical storm activity within a 20-mile radius, Michael Mann would drool uncontrollably, piss himself, and he'd be able to communicate with microwaves briefly, or so he describes. He often adds that they chatter the most when it's stormy out. They bitch about having smelly foods like fish inside them, and how they long for the forbidden taste of human flesh. Only few have partaken, he would usually add at the end. But they all crave it. According to Mann, quote, "It's why people on drugs put babies in microwaves, The dope tunes you in to the microwaves, and they're always talking, always hungry, always waiting." End quote. Yeah, so yeah. Wow. That was nonsense, of course. Made all that up. I just made it up. I'm moving on now. In that metaphorical, Jesus, Elton, relax. Okay, Elton, I'll relax. In that metaphorical lightning bolt, and not in any way, by the way, just to clarify, not in any way a real lightning bolt at all, giving you the power to talk to microwaves. Not real at all, that. In a metaphorical lightning bolt, he gained an absolute total self-knowledge, he claimed. He realized he was meant to be a filmmaker, filmmaker. He was further inspired by Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, which showed him it was possible to make ambitious artistic films for a mainstream audience. In 1965, Mann moved to the London Film School. His years in London were defined by being broke, cold, and wet. Living on a meager £10 a week after graduating, he worked in the British office of 20th Century Fox, where he learned the totality of a movie by organizing budgets and logistics, a three-dimensional planning skill he applies to this day. And in 1968, he found himself in the middle of the student uprisings in Paris, filming documentary footage for NBC News, because certain protesters would only speak to him and his partner rather than the major networks. Why? Because back when the baby boomer generation saw anyone over the age of 25, they saw them as a warmongering establishment stooge being controlled by the man. Just for some fun, if you contrast that with how a lot of baby boomers feel now, in that they see anyone younger than 25 as an out-of-touch idiot who can't think for themselves, being controlled by various agendas of one stripe or another, or something like that. They're a weird group. Returning to the United States in 1971, Mann began an accidental career as a television writer. He wrote for shows like Starsky and Hutch and Police Story, using his success as a strategic tool. His game plan was to become an important enough writer to extort a directing gig. That's a solid and ballsy plan, I must say so myself. You have to have a lot of confidence to carry that off, to be able to say, you know what, this typewriter is going to force you to let me use a camera. Motherfucker. No, I doubt he said that. This maneuver succeeded in 1979 with the Jericho Mile, a television film shot inside Folsom Prison. The experience was transformative. He discovered that prison was a lab of social characteristics, where the human ego expressed itself through flamboyant dress and grooming because physical movement was restricted. This confused me. Aren't they all issued uniforms? How would you... how? It doesn't matter. In 1981, Mann released his first feature, Thief, which he envisioned as a political analog rooted in Marxist labor theory. It starred James motherfucking Caan. During the 1980s, he became a household name as the executive producer of Miami Vice, where he revolutionized television by replacing tan palettes with vibrant pastels, drab suits with V-neck t-shirts with white blazers over them, and integrating popular music like Phil Collins's In the Air Tonight, played over a lot of speedboats for some reason. In cinema, he introduced Hannibal Lecter to the world in Manhunter. It was out in 1986, a film that showcased his fascination with the pathological dream and the mental toll of criminal profiling. There's a pretty cool video comparing Brian Cox's portrayal of Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter, which is based on the book Red Dragon, compared to Sir Anthony Hopkins' performance from the movie called Red Dragon, respectively. Both are extremely well done. Both performances are amazing, with Hopkins, of course, being the one that would become elevated to, cultural icon, his portrayal. Each is executed to perfection. They pull the character out in their varying styles. Just great. They're both really amazing. And this is just my opinion. They both could have used a well-timed cum shot, a la Silence of the Lambs. But, that's just the old cinephile in me. Cinephile. The 1990s marked Mann's creative zenith. In 1992, he realized a project that had been rattling around in his brain since he saw the story at the age of 4. I'm pretty sure it's the 1930-somethings version, but whatever. The Last of the Mohicans. A movie that would go on to win for Best Cinematography and Best Makeup Artist, And then he followed this with his acknowledged masterpiece. That's a hell of a thing when you can be like, this is my masterpiece. Anyway, he followed it up with Heat in 1995, a film he reverse engineered from, spoiler, a final image of two self-aware men connecting at the moment of death. Going backwards from that. How nifty neato. He closed out the decade with The Insider. 1999 is when that came out. An intense study of corporate whistleblowing that focused on the authenticity of flawed heroes. A movie which was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor in a leading role for Russell Crowe, the gladiator himself, the really bulking up gladiator. I mean, man, oh man, lately, whoo, buddy, put the Twinkies down, buddy. In the 2000s, Mann continued to innovate. Michael Mann continued, not the man, not any man. Michael Mann, that's such a confusing last name. In the 2000s, Michael Mann continued to innovate. He spent months training Will Smith to become a boxer for the movie Ali in 2001, which, that movie fucking sucked, didn't it? I mean, sorry, Mr. Mann, but it did. Will Smith as Muhammad Ali was just ill-conceived. What a weird choice. And I'm factoring in the fact that Will Smith does, in fact, know how to hit another man in front of a crowd while being filmed. I mean, yeah. Michael Mann became a pioneer of digital cinematography with Collateral in 2004. Using the technology to capture the specific incandescent yellow glow of Los Angeles at night that traditional film could not. Yeah, I just watched that again recently, and I didn't realize that most of it is shot in a cab that is not well lit. In his later years, Mann returned to his most vivid characters, and the ones we're talking about today. He co-authored the best-selling novel Heat. 2 came out in 2022. The book we're getting into this time around is Heat 2. Heat 2, which functions as both a prequel and a sequel. I'll be getting into that in a little bit. He explores the life of Neil McCauley, who was played by Robert De Niro in the movie Heat, and Vincent Hanna, played by Al Pacino. I can't do an Al Pacino. I tried doing an Al Pacino earlier this week, and it was awful. Maybe I'll pull it out later. You got to keep listening. Before and after that film, though, in 2023, he realized his decades-long dream project, Ferrari. Filming in the actual locations where Enzo Ferrari lived and died. I still have not seen that movie. He brought his career-long commitment to historical authenticity and character interiority all the way back around. Now he's 80 fucking years old, or in his 80s. He's old. 80 on anyone's books, fucking old. And he's jumped on the octogenarian cash in while I'm still alive train, and is rehashing his old material for a new generation of youngsters born during the age of never-ending resurgence. This isn't eternity everything you ever wanted, huh? Just never letting anything come to an end. May we see more CGI and AI-aided movies thrusting those our near-dead and long-dead actors near and dear to our hearts into new movies every year. I can't wait for 90-year-old Robert De Niro to play 20-something-year-old Robert De Niro, playing one of his iconic characters pitted against a 90-year-old Al Pacino who's rendered digitally, into a 20-something-year-old version of Al Pacino playing a character that he made famous, pitting them against each other. I'm thinking a Tony Montana versus Travis Bickle, and maybe like a Perfect Strangers remake. Like an Odd Couple kind of thing, yes, please. Let's get that going. Hello, Netflix. Take my call. What the fuck are we doing to ourselves? We just need to learn to let go and watch the movies over and over again. Like The Wizard of Oz. We did make Wizard of Oz 2, didn't we? That Tin Man movie. Oh my God. That's what we're going to do with Heat, isn't it? Just over and over again. Did you see The Irishman? Could barely move in that shit. Robert De Niro just smooth-faced, still walking like an old man. Like he's supposed to be in his 30s or 40s. And he was just inching down the stairs. Inching down the stairs like an 80-year-old man. But they dyed his hair and shit though. They tried to sell it. Oh, they tried. Anyway, as we desperately try to still the hands of time, Michael Mann has returned to the world of his most iconic characters with Heat 2. Having he already co-wrote the novel, he's now deep in preparation to bring it to the big screen. I swear to God, if everything is AI, it's gonna break my heart. Anyway, it's targeted to start filming. Is targeted to start August 3rd, 2026. It's a career. Michael Mann's career was, just never compromising. His career was just never compromising. Fucking researching the shit out of everything and constantly reaching for, new shit. It's pretty neat. And he will keep reaching forward all the way to his own grave, apparently. Well, hey, whoa. Before we talk about Heat 2, though, I have to assume you don't know fucking dick all about the first one. Am I right? Despite me having talked about it like I did, kind of. Yeah, I have to. I have to talk about it. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna talk like that. This is it's a one-way communication thing happening, right here. What we're doing, and then I gotta assume that you're culturally, you're challenged, if you will. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Actually, you know what? I am. I may have just spoke too fast for you. Okay. Let me just. Let's put the brakes on here. I have to assume that you're culturally challenged.
Oh, and there goes that audience pool, just drying up faster than every woman who has ever laid eyes on you. Good golly.
I'm not going to dignify that with
and yet, here you are.
Not going to dignify that with a response.
I've been listening and was curious if there's going to be gun talk and shoot 'em up kind of stuff. Like, where are the gun noises? There have to be gun noises, right? Are you going to go all pew, pew, pew with your mouth or something? Pew, pew, pew. That's great. Them's my gun sounds. Classic.
Why would I need gun noises?
To deepen the oral experience, maybe? Hello?
Why would I need gun noises?
If anything, at the very least, it might make your gibbering slightly entertaining. Maybe. I don't need gun sounds. But anything's worth a try, right?
No, I don't.
No, wait. Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna jump in and help out here. I'm gonna find some pew pew for you.
I don't need gun sounds. I don't need gun sounds.
And liven your droning up. Yeah. Oh, I've got a project. I do like a project. Heck yeah, I do. You know what? I'm pretty sure you just don't know what you're missing. So I'll have some on deck just in case. At the ready and stuff. It'll be fine.
I don't need gun sounds.
They'll just be on deck. On deck.
Okay, look, I'm sorry about that last joke about being slow, folks. It was fucked up. So I'll refrain from making jokes like that in the future. Okay, I promise. You are the root of all that's evil.
Pew pew.
You're evil.
Pew pew pew. Classic.
You just evil. Well, okay. How about a peace offering, dear listener? Did you know that the movie Heat was inspired by a true story? Yeah, and it wasn't a porno either. I mean, how wild is that on both counts, right? That it was inspired by an actual true story, and it was not named after a porno or inspired. The title was not inspired by a porno either. That would have made the origin story so much better, though, wouldn't it? To be like, next question. Yes, Mr. Man. Mr. Man. Mr. Man. Where did you come up with the name for Heat? Well, I mean, it does refer to the criminal slang criminals use to describe the police. But I was up late one night jerking off, and I saw a porno with the name Heat in it, and so you know, obviously it lended itself to a cops and robbers movie with a heist in it. I was like, how am I not making a porno at this point? You know what I mean? All right, next question. You in the back. Yeah, that would have been a lot cooler. I think. But no, the film draws heavily from real events. The character of LAPD detective Vincent Hanna, played by Al Pacino, is based on Chuck Adamson, a Chicago sergeant detective who pursued a master thief named Neil McCauley. And, I mean, master thief, I think that's handed out a little, I don't know. It's handed out a little light-handed. You know, just giving it to whoever. The real inspiration was for Robert De Niro's character was Neil McCauley. Their dramatic coffee shop scene between Hanna and McCauley was inspired by a real encounter between the real two men, Adamson and the real Neil McCauley. I mean, I talked about the scene earlier in the episode there, but in case you forgot it, here's a quick recap. Robert De Niro and Al Pacino are sitting across from each other in fluorescent light, greasy spoon kind of late night diner. They aren't shouting, no guns drawn, not even a hand job. You know, right? Like the kind two equals give each other, you know, on a desolate LA night. In a diner that, you know, you find maybe right off the freeway. You know, oh my God, I can't believe it. They call them a captain's handy, how are you? My goodness, maybe it's just a guy thing. I don't know. It's a little long, that name, sure. But it was named by people that, look, I imagine it was an in the moment kind of thing, okay? We're not talking about wordsmiths naming hand jobs here. You know, you're not talking about poets. Look, we're talking about the people that give these, the captains of their respective fields. All right, captains of industry. You get it? Okay. Look. Okay. The name's irrelevant. These guys were more interested in what the captain's handy. How are you? What that conveys, you know, subtextually. Yeah, okay, it sounds weird from an outsider's perspective, sure. But hey, look, at a lot of very successful, very historic business deals, just meetings, historic business deals, negotiations, landmark negotiation. They were settled this way. You know this? Look, okay, off the top of my head, the Japanese surrendering after World War II, huh? Bet you didn't know that, I guess. It was there's a famous video, Eisenhower giving and getting a hand job from the emperor. It's the captain's handy. How are you? Anyway, I guess you didn't know that. Henry Ford's location for his first factory to build the Model T, huh? That negotiation was handled wasn't with a handshake. It wasn't a handshake that closed the deal on that. Captain's handy, how are you? Look, I could do this all night, but you get it, all right? You understand now, I guess. I don't know why they don't teach this stuff in history class, but there it is. Now you know, okay? My goodness, I just no student left behind my ass. It's ridiculous. It's the captain's handy. How are you? It's a shame. The education system in the United States is just dropping the ball, dropping balls left and right, dropping balls just on the face of education, just dropping balls in the face of education. Students, dropping balls in the face of students' education. It's disgusting. And I made it up. Of course I did. God, Captain's handy, how are you? What are you talking about? No. In the scene, De Niro and Pacino's character are just talking shop. They're two professionals acknowledging that eventually one of them is going to have to kill the other, as one does in any professional meeting. Most people think that's just peak Hollywood screenwriting. But like I said before, that conversation actually happened, more or less. It wasn't in LA. It wasn't in the 90s. It was in 1963. In a deli in quote-unquote Chicago. Okay, by now, I don't have to tell you that Michael Mann has gaslit the world into believing Chicago exists. Whatever. I'm just telling you what the research told me. Okay? And the two men sitting at that table, they weren't movie stars. They were detective, again, like I mentioned before, Chuck Adamson, and the professional thief named Neil McCauley, not De Niro McCauley. Neil, real Master Thief McCauley. I'm sorry, I'll tell you why I think Master Thief is a little loosely bandied about. Okay, to understand why this meeting happened, you have to understand the players involved. Okay, Chuck Adamson wasn't your stereotypical loose cannon cop, a la Mel Gibson pre-wife beating, fucked upness, anti-Semitism when he played Riggs in Lethal Weapon. Oh, you got there before I did. I heard you. Anyway, he wasn't a loose cannon cop like that. He was meticulous. He was the guy who lived for the details. And in the early 60s, he was leading an elite unit in the made-up city of Chicago, tasked with bringing down the city's most sophisticated crews. Then you had Neil McCauley. Neil McCauley was the real deal. He'd done hard time in Alcatraz and Folsom, which, see, that makes me think that he wasn't a master thief. Because I feel like if you're going to get handed the term master thief, you got to be one that hasn't gotten caught yet, or ever. That's a master thief. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, McCauley wasn't a thug. He was a technician. He lived by a very specific, very cold rule. Don't get attached to anything you can't walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Adamson had been tailing McCauley's crew for months. He knew McCauley was planning something big, but McCauley was a ghost. He didn't use informants. He didn't leave fingerprints. He didn't make mistakes. One afternoon, the cat and mouse game hit a peak. Adamson was tailing McCauley when McCauley spotted him. Instead of a high-speed chase or shootout like those idiots in the North Hollywood thing, McCauley just pulled over. Adamson pulled up next to him, and in a move that sounds like pure fiction, Adamson asked if he wanted to grab a cup of coffee. Not give him a captain's handy how are you. No, they went to Belden's Deli for about 45 minutes. They sat there and just talked. They talked about their lives, their work, and the fact they both knew where this was headed. Adamson told him, "Look, Neil, I'm going to have to kill you someday." And McCauley, cool as ice, basically said, "I know. It works both ways." They finished their coffee, paid their tabs, and walked out. No handcuffs, no sirens, just a professional understanding. Not even a captain's handy how are you. I'm sorry, I will stop doing that, I promise. Now, fast forward to March 25th, 1964. Two guys giving each other a captain's handy how are you. No. I will let it go. I swear. Fast forward to March 25th, 1964. The heat McCauley warned himself about was finally here. McCauley and his crew were hitting a national tea company grocery store. That sounds lame, sure, but, it was the 60s. Grocery stores had money back then, I guess. They were after the armored car delivery, a massive payday. What they didn't know was that Adamson and his team had been living in their cars for days, watching every move. They were tucked into the shadows of the parking lot, weapons ready, just waiting for the bag to drop. As McCauley's crew exited the store with the cash, Adamson's team moved in. It wasn't the massive downtown battle you see in the movie. It was grittier. It was desperate. Close quarters battle in a dark parking lot. The thieves didn't surrender. They went for their guns, screams, sirens, and the... Why did you... The sounds of...
Pow, pow.
Those sounds
I love it.
like that filled the air. Fucking unbelievable. One of McCauley's guys was killed instantly in the getaway car. Another was wounded. McCauley realized that his 30 seconds were up, and he bolted. He ran into a nearby alley, trying to use the urban maze of Chicago to disappear one last time. But Adamson was right there. He knew McCauley's rhythm. In that dark alley, McCauley turned to fire, but Adamson was faster. He fired multiple times, and the... Oh my God, you are insane!
It's the best!
He fired multiple times, and...
Well, go on.
He fired multiple times, and the... Oh, you killed me.
Awesome.
He fired multiple times, and the man who lived by the rule of no attachments died exactly how he'd predicted at that deli table. Alone, on the pavement, hunted by the only man who truly understood him. Years later, Chuck Adamson retired and moved to Hollywood. He started writing for shows like Miami Vice and met a director named Michael Mann. Adamson told Mann the story of his white whale, Neil McCauley. He told him about the deli, the professional respect, and the shootout Chicago night. Mann said,
Too fun.
I
Just too
cannot
fun.
believe that my made-up town of Chicago has gotten so far as to infiltrate stories about the past. I've truly changed the world in a way it will never, ever know. I am the devil. No, he didn't say that. No. Mann was obsessed with the authenticity of it, of the whole encounter, of Adamson's story. So he kept the names, kept the dialogue, and turned it into one of the greatest crime sagas ever filmed. Well, except for Adamson, he changed that to Hanna. So next time you're watching Pacino and De Niro trade lines in that diner, just remember, somewhere in the archives of the Chicago PD, there's a file on a man named Neil McCauley who lived and died by maybe those exact words. I mean, we'll never know if they're the exact words. That's, who knows? But he lived and died. But he lived and died by words pretty similar to those. That's pretty kick-ass, I think. But now, here's a quick rundown of some fun facts from the movie Heat before hitting Heat 2. Just real fast, I promise, don't run away, please. I'm just doing a skimming kind of thing, all right? Everyone should see the movie Heat. It's brilliant. Enough said about that. Just see it. Okay. Now here's the skimming. Michael Mann first wrote a draft of the script in 1979. It was even adapted into a TV movie called L.A. Takedown in 1989 before Mann decided to make it a full-length feature film in 1994. The legendary diner scene, that we've been talking about this whole time, it was shot without rehearsals to capture the rawness and intensity of their characters' first meeting. Michael Mann opted to record gunshots, like I think I did mention. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that earlier. I'm recording this over 2 days, so I might have mentioned it yesterday. I don't remember. I'm so sorry. Anyway, he opted to record real gunshots in the bank robbery shootout live on set. Yes, I did mention this earlier because I said that people were killed, but that did not really happen. So, instead of adding them in post-production, again, live ammunition wasn't used. What are we even doing, right?
I'm on a roll.
Just don't start.
Sucker.
Just stop.
Pew, pew.
I know.
I'm rolling.
I know. I'm moving on.
Pippity pew pew.
I'm moving on. Plus, the actors underwent
great.
extensive
So
weapons
great.
and tactics training, including using live ammunition during drills. Okay, I was waiting for it. Under the guidance of former British Special Service members. So that's pretty badass. You probably heard about Val Kilmer's character, Chris Shiherlis, and his swift and accurate reloading technique in that shootout scene. And it's so realistic that it's reported to have been shown to U.S. Marine recruits and British Army officer cadets. My goodness, can't get that word out. As an example of proper weapons handling under fire. No sound stages. The entire film was shot entirely on location across 65 different locations in Los Angeles over 107 days with no use of sound stages. Keanu Reeves almost played Val Kilmer's part. Val Kilmer played Chris Shiherlis in the movie. Val Kilmer was initially the top choice, but scheduling conflicts with Batman Forever, you remember that movie? Anyway, that almost led to Keanu Reeves taking the role instead. Kilmer's schedule eventually cleared up because Batman Forever, probably not the best Batman. Though Val Kilmer, I think, was really good as Bruce Wayne and Batman in general. Still, I don't know. The movie's kind of, Anyway, Kilmer's schedule eventually cleared up, and he took the part, obviously. Here's a cool one. Al Pacino revealed that he played the character of Vincent Hanna as if he was on cocaine the entire time. So, that's crazy. Even though it wasn't explicitly in the script, he felt it kind of explained Hanna's erratic and intense behavior. Yeah. Michael Mann drew inspiration for Robert De Niro's character Neil McCauley, not only from the real Neil McCauley, but from the minimalist and detached style of Alain Delon's character in the 1967 film Les Samurai. The film's realism and style, they've influenced lots of people, including Christopher Nolan, who cited Heat as a major influence on his approach to filming Gotham City in The Dark Knight. Moreover, the real-life criminals that we mentioned before at the top there, lots of criminals have reportedly been inspired by the film's heist scenes because they are awesome.
Elton! Hey. Okay, you've stopped. Good. Hey, let me jump in here and tell the fine listeners that if they don't want to hear me say, let me jump in here, and then just flagrantly dump an ad break in their poor ear holes, I'm always the bad cop in these things. If they prefer no interruptions, perhaps they'd like to contribute via Patreon for only $4 a month and get all the episodes ad-free. Plus, they would get episodes early and with exclusive artwork for each episode, and also Patreon-exclusive podcasts like Internet Riot Master, where Elton actually reads a very weird book to you. Kind of, when he isn't prattling off into tangents. He's got the attention span of a gnat, this guy. And lots of other stuff, too. So join the Patreon, folks. Link is in the description. Probably. I only work on the front end of this loose-wheeled shopping cart. Here are the ads.
So now on to the book. Heat 2, the sequel that I don't think anyone really asked for, but here we are. Heat 2 was co-authored by filmmaker, as we know, Michael Mann and Edgar Award-winning crime novelist Meg Gardiner. Gardiner. It is a little ambitious, this novel. It's a globe-spanning work of crime fiction. And it functions simultaneously as a prequel and sequel to Heat. It's a bit of a pivot, for Michael Mann. And the most... I guess he could be considered a very distinct auteur, and immediately the book became a New York Times bestseller, which I still think is a scam, but whatever. But by the way, auteur means a film director who exerts high creative control, he stamps a distinct, or he or she stamps a distinct personal style and thematic consistency on their films, essentially acting as the primary author, so to speak. I would say that you could consider Wes Anderson an auteur with his visual style and style of storytelling. Sure. That is the beginning and end of my film analyses portion of the podcast. Well, as far as auteurs go. Look, the book is equal parts heist, thriller, crime, epic, and character study, kind of. No, it is. Heat 2 extends the mythology of Neil McCauley, Vincent Hanna, and Chris Shiherlis across a 12-year arc from 1988 to 2000, tracing the rippling consequences of choices made in the shadows of Chicago, Mexico, Paraguay, and Los Angeles. It is a work of staggering scope, though not without its structural contradictions and thematic complications. It can be a bitch to follow, and characters stack on characters. It's a little hard to parse sometimes. The origins of Heat 2 stretch back decades before the book's publication. Michael Mann is renowned for being he exhaustively researches and does a meticulous character backstory when he develops before production or on any project. And he had compiled extensive notes and dossiers on the principal characters or figures of Heat long before filming began back in 1995. These detailed character histories, the lives of Neil McCauley, Vincent Hanna, and Chris Shiherlis, lived before the events of the film, but they were never deployed on screen. But Mann didn't want to just do that for no reason. He always had a plan for it. As he himself told Rolling Stone, I never really left them. They never really left me. Which, yeah. Rather than approach the project alone, Mann sought a collaborator with deep experience in the crime fiction genre. Why? Because he'd never written a novel before. That's why. Sure, yeah, he's gaslit the entire galaxy. into believing that Chicago is a thing. But, I mean, that's just wild on its face. But cranking out a novel is a lot harder.
Writing novels with
Jesus
friends doing crimes are like combining my three favorite things into one thing, man.
What the fuck are you doing here, Alonzo?
Yeah, that math works out.
Oh my...
Are you looking to do some collaboration on some crime pulp?
What?
Alonzo's your man, Mono.
Wait, why the...
Oh, I just came upstairs to nab some toilet paper. Gotta keep that O-ring squeaky clean.
Wait,
know what I mean?
Toilet paper?
There's no buts about a clean butt.
No, wait, no. Why the fuck are you down...
If you don't wipe, it ain't right, or so I used to hear back in Sunday school. Kids can be cruel, I tell you. Brutal.
What are you doing downstairs, and why do you need toilet paper?
We don't have to talk about that right now, man. Listen, though, if you need to know about organized crime stuff, my friend Spirit had so much firsthand, I guess, like, dealings in that world. He used to tell me all about it. The wildest stuff. You won't believe the crazy stuff he used to tell me.
You being downstairs in my house, Alonzo.
Let me see. It was stuff about, like, guns and
about what your friend was,
holsters for the guns, and they wore suits sometimes. The organized crime guys, I mean. Sometimes they wore track suits, which is a weird choice. I don't even know where you'd get a track suit, you know? Well, anyway, long story short, back in the early 90s, something like 57% of the cocaine used in the U.S. was smuggled here, inside Spirit's colon. Not all at once, though.
I don't know how to... I don't know how to respond to that. I don't...
Well, look, you seem to have everything well in hand here, so I'm just going to cop this roll of tickets to the Deuce Pool off you, and we'll talk later, huh?
Yeah, you can... Yeah, we'll talk... We'll talk later.
Right on. So, yeah. Check in later, Gator. Time to go see a man about some dookie.
I'm gonna continue now. What the fuck? Wow. So, yeah, Michael Mann found his writing partner in Meg Gardiner, an Edgar Award-winning thriller author, whose instincts for pacing, character, and the architecture of the crime novel complemented Mann's cinematic vision. Quote, "I'd always wanted to write a heist novel," Gardiner has said. "What better chance to do that than with these characters in that world?" End quote. Mann's strategy was to immerse Gardiner completely in the universe he had constructed. I wanted to bring her into the Heat universe because it really is a universe. So I kind of dropped Meg into the deep end of the pool with that stuff, as one does, into the deep end of crime stuff. Not actual crime, mind you, but fake crime stuff. The collaboration itself was conducted largely at a distance with Mann and Gardiner. Gardiner. I don't know. Gardiner. Gardiner? Gardner. I'm going Gardner. They collaborated via exchanging emails and Word documents from opposite ends of the globe. Though Mann was largely responsible for the overarching structure, neither writer worked in isolation. They wrote concurrently, often rewriting each other's passages, polishing and elaborating on shared material. I'd be stuck on something and say, hey, look, I've been on these 3 pages for 2 days now. Can you take a crack at this? And vice versa. Mann has recalled. It would be nearly a year before the two writers met face to face in L.A. When they finally did, Gardiner stabbed him. It's fucked up. Yeah, it turned out she was a bit of a psychopath, and no one knew until that day. She'd been off her meds for a little over 2 months by that point, and she'd been self-medicating with homemade brandy and Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. Yep. And snorting brown sugar, which is I don't know if you've ever messed with brown sugar, but it is not a good snorting sugar. Just not does not lend itself to a good toot, like the booger sugar, No, I'm kidding. Gardiner described the meeting as her own version of Heat's legendary coffee shop scene between Hanna and McCauley. Quote, I got my own Vincent Neil coffee shop scene with Michael Mann, she means. Heat 2 is organized into 6 parts and operates in the narrative mode of The Godfather Part 2, a non-linear weave of prequel and sequel storylines that intercede upon one another across multiple time periods. The novel takes place across 4 distinct chronological settings, 1988, 1995, 1996, and 2000, and unfolds across 2 continents spanning LA, made-up Chicago, and the U.S.-Mexico border and the Paraguayan free trade city of Ciudad del Este. I'm gonna fuck this up with an accent. Here we go. Ciudad del Este. Rather, I didn't look up how to pronounce that, so I hope it's right. Rather than proceeding chronologically, Mann and Gardiner arranged the narrative so that cause and effect become visible across time, with events in one era casting long shadows over the outcomes in another. The book's prose style is notably cinematic, clipped, present tense, built for momentum. Mann's background as a screenwriter is present throughout. The sentences are economical, and suggest rather an ornate unfolding action and observation with the controlled kind of urgency, I guess, of a director. Lining up a shot and following along. This style and discipline mirrors the temperaments of the protagonists themselves. Men of absolute focus, minimum sentimentality, and maximum, operational awareness. They know what the fuck they're doing, in, out, all that stuff. At the same time, the novel permits like a deeper kind of psychological, like they dig into excavation. It's like they dig into the psychology of it far more than a 2-hour film would accommodate, giving Mann and Gardiner the space to examine what shaped these characters long before the viewer ever got to meet them. Now, the novel opens up, right, in the immediate wake of the film. It is 1995, and L.A. is still kind of in the midst of that, of them shooting up the airport and all that, and the confrontation that ended. Spoiler. The confrontation that ended Neil McCauley's life and career. When he holds Al Pacino's hand by the runway, and the single surviving member of McCauley's crew, Chris Shaherlis, which I had completely forgotten, had gotten away at the end of Heat. He's holed up in Koreatown, badly wounded and half delirious. He's shot, he's all fucked up. He's running on pure adrenaline, baby, and the instinct to survive. And Vincent Hanna, LAPD's Lieutenant Vincent Hanna, is closing in on his ass. But Chris, to his credit, and with a time crunch happening, the time-sensitive assistant from Nate, the fixer, John Voight in the movie, Chris manages to slip from the city before Hanna can get him. Though, through a sequence of illegal border crossings and forged documentation and hair dyeing, if I remember right, Chris is supplied with funds, a new Canadian identity, and a one-way transit southward into Mexico, and then to Paraguay. Yeah, so he goes up to Canada and then gets down into Mexico. It's kind of a roundabout route. His freedom is bought at enormous personal cost. He's supposed to probably he's never going to return to his wife Charlene, who's played by Charlize Theron. No, Ashley Judd, played by Ashley Judd in the movie. He's never going to return to Ashley Judd, who played Charlene, or his son Dominic, a little boy in the movie. The life, he's never going to return to that life in L.A. The scores, the crew, Neil, all that shit is done. What he chooses to build in its place is the subject of the novel's most expansive and original threads. His opening part is brisk and quick. You kind of get, fills in the gap between the movie ending and then, just it functions largely as a bridge between the world the reader already knows from the movie, and the far more sprawling terrain the novel intends to get into. And it's pretty economically written and dramatically it's pretty efficient. Just kind of gets them across the border and out. It establishes the novel's central emotional stakes. Chris doesn't like being in exile. He wants to get back to his family. And this kind of unmooring he has, and Neil dying and all that, and just the crew falling apart, that he's just getting into that, getting that into his head before the timeline just shoots back to 1988, into a town, you know what, I think we can all pretty much say, into a town that doesn't exist, really, which is a city, which is Chicago, completely made up by Michael Mann, and we have been gaslit into believing it's a real place. Name one person from Chicago. You really can't. It's just impossible because it doesn't exist. Anyway, Chicago, the made up city. You're back to 1988, and both Vincent Hanna and Neil McCauley are living and working in Chicago. He's alive. Neil McCauley's alive now because, we're in the past. And they're both living and working in Chicago, completely unaware of each other's existence at all. The prequel section is where Mann and Gardiner lay the foundational causes that will produce the dramatic effects. McCauley's non-attachment, that, whatever you're willing to drop, you need to be willing to drop in 30 seconds. All that is defined in this past sequence in 1988. It is the backstory elevated to first order storytelling. In the novel's 1988 timeline, Hanna and his partner Casals, both Chicago detectives, remember, completely made up city, both Chicago detectives at this stage in their careers, years before either would relocate to LA, they were pursuing a particularly fucked up criminal named Otis Wardell. He's a hulking, kind of big, sexually sadistic, fucking psycho, weird fucking guy who's pedophilic. He's just crazy. He leads a gang of home invaders. Unlike conventional burglars, Wardell deliberately targets occupied homes, killing the male occupants and then assaulting the women. He is the moral architecture of the novel, the counterpoint, if you will, to the professional criminals of the McCauley universe. A creature of pure psychopath kind of disorder rather than operational discipline. Hanna, with his trademark obsessive thoroughness, sets a trap for Wardell's crew. Spoiler, the ambush kind of works, but Wardell escapes. And that failure haunts Hanna across the subsequent years of the story. Meanwhile, again in a parallel strand of the 1980s, see, it gets a little in the parallel strand of the 1988 Chicago storyline. Neil McCauley and Chris Hurlis are newly partnered and in the early stages of what will become their legendary crew. They execute a safety deposit vault heist in the city. The score yields, they get cash and valuables, but most importantly, it produces an unexpected windfall. It's a bunch of discs. It's a bunch of shipment logs that are on a floppy disks. Zip drive, I think it is, actually. Anyway, remember zip drives? Oh, zip drives. Expensive and kind of pointless in the long run, but they were nice for a little while. A little hard to use. Anyway, they were a little janky. But anyway, it produces that. They find that in a safe deposit box. And the way they get in is pretty genius. Read the book. It's the important part that I'm getting to here. Is read the book. It is surprisingly good. It can be a little convoluted. Some of the characters' stuff is hard to follow sometimes, but still worth reading 100%. Buy it via the link I have in the episode description. How is that for selling shit, Elton? God damn! Also join the Patreon. I'm getting all this out right now. Anyway, this information becomes part of the foundation for the novel's most electrifying part. The electrifying action sequence in part 4. But the Chicago section also introduces the romance between a younger Chris and Charlene when he goes, and you also find out about his gambling habits, which are alluded to in Heat. But it's more laid out earlier that he's got kind of a problem, and he says it's like a vacation kind of thing. He blows a shitload of money in Vegas, and that's where he meets Charlene. They kind of allude to it in the movie, but still. You find out the whole story here in this book. Another crucial function of the 1988 material is to dramatize the origins of Neil's famous philosophy of non-attachment, the 30-second rule he articulates in the film's celebrated Chicago shop scene. In Heat 2, Neil is a man still capable of deep emotional connection. Sorry, that's really starting to weird my mouth out. He is in love with Eliza, a woman he met through the Chicago underworld. Namely, I think it's her dad, I believe. Anyway, he plays a devoted, warm father figure to her young daughter, Gabriella. The Neil McCauley of 1988 has not yet become jaded and, coldly disciplined loner that he will be in 1995. The transformation, as the novel reveals, is the product of a specific and very devastating loss to him. Not giving that away, you need to read the book. Go read the book. The narrative then after that pivots to 1996, and you follow Chris into the free trade zones of Paraguay's Ciudad Ciudad del Este, one of South America's most notorious open markets for organized crime. I don't know if it still is. I'd never heard of the city before this, but, maybe I'll look it up. Chris has established himself in the city with his forged Canadian passport, operating initially as a security detail, watching a mall as a mall security guard, more or less, and essentially a glorified driver for a Taiwanese crime syndicate family style that exploits the zone's shitty legal environment to deal in high-tech electronics, contraband, and a range of criminal enterprises that blur the line between commerce and organized crime. Ciudad del Este, I don't know if I'm even saying that right. It functions as the novel's most original and tonally distinct setting. Mann and Gardiner render it as a kind of contemporary Wild West, but 90s style. Like, suits and dirt bikes racing through city streets, that kind of thing. It's a free fire commercial jungle in which rival crime families compete, not with old school violence alone, but with data, supply chains, and trying to hack information. It is a world in which the classic bank robbing criminal, the kind of professional McCauley's crew, that what they embody, it's rapidly becoming obsolete and being replaced by transnational operators who, don't break laws. They soar above them and above national judicial systems. The main Taiwanese crime syndicate in Ciudad del Este is the Liu family, headed by patriarch David Liu, whose daughter Anna and son Felix are both angling for control of the family's enterprise, and Chris, with his military and operational background, works his way steadily up the organization's hierarchy, which he does so at a bit of a quick pace for me. I don't know. It seemed a little quick. So anyway, that happens. There's trouble with a rival family, and then Chris has to decide about whether he's going to contact Charlene and Dominic. It's a whole thing. And then you pivot back to 1988 at the Mexican border, and you return there, and then there's this whole thing with Neil and that crew, and Chris is there because it's 1988 now, and they all get together with Michael Chirito, the guy played by Tom Sizemore in the movie, along with Eliza and her daughter Gabriella. They're all on the Mexican border town, and the crew's plan is to extract what information they got. They used to plan a heist of a Mexican cartel, a stash house where they keep all their drug money. And so then things happen there. That's all I'll say. Things happen there. And then you pivot back to 1996. Do you see what I'm saying? You pivot back to 1996 and the Paraguay timeline, and there's a relationship that Chris gets into, and that develops, and then he really gets entangled with with helping out the crime family, but also not helping them out. That part is easy to follow, but I'm not giving it away for you. I'm not giving you the whole thing. And then finally, pivot back after that gets set up. You pivot back to the year 2000. And that's the final and longest part of the novel because it all kind of starts to come together. All the threads throughout all these different timelines, they all start to coalesce at the end, which to me seems a little like a closed universe kind of thing. Like people bump into each other in Los Angeles, a city of millions, by the way, and they just happen to bump into each other and happen to know each other over this long history. It's a little unreasonable, not unreasonable. I don't know. It's a fiction book, but still, you would think that it would be harder for someone to bump into somebody else in LA, just randomly, being like, hey, I know you. Out of all of California, you just happen to be a person that I knew decades ago, or not a decade ago. How very odd. Out of the millions of people I see every day, here you are. And another one. Oh, and another one. By golly. Everyone I knew from decades ago is all of a sudden in the same neighborhood. It's very convenient, is what I'm saying. But that happens. The character of course, who undergoes the most substantial and original development in Heat 2 is Chris Shiherlis, Val Kilmer's character. In the film, he was a compelling but kind of backup, secondary kind of guy. He was a loyal dude, went in, got the job done, and stuck by Neil. In the novel, he becomes the primary vehicle because, if you're going to turn this into a movie, you're going to need someone who lived after the end of the last movie, aren't you? It just makes sense. So in the novel, he becomes the primary vehicle through which Michael Mann and Gardiner explore the evolution of crime in the digital age, which is not the internet age. It's the beginning of the internet age, but different. Anyway, Chris begins the novel as a fugitive running on instinct, doing what he does best, and then ends it as a globally connected kind of crime operator of pretty strategic sophistication. He's no longer relegated to the sidelines of decision-making and relying on no one other than himself, more or less. His arc is a portrait of adaptation, the transformation of a man who was part of someone else's machine and becomes the architect of his own. You know what I mean? Neil McCauley's arc is a prequel in nature, of course, and its task is to account for the most memorable and philosophically resonant aspects of his characterization in the movie. Kind of gives you the background of that whole why he can cut out in 30 seconds, and it's kind of sad once you know more about it. The novel's 1988 material presents a Neil who is, given his reputation, warm. Well, capable of warmth anyway, and he has attachments. His relationship with Eliza and his tenderness toward her daughter, Gabriella, make him, soften him in ways that, of course, recontextualize what you see in the movie and why he's so cold in the movie. But still, I'm not going to tell you everything and what happens there and all that, but still, it gives you a better view of the character from the movie, a little more depth. And Vincent Hanna, Al Pacino's arc, is perhaps the most, gives you the most to think about. Certainly the most melancholy, because the 1988 Chicago sequence shows him at the height of his powers. He's like methodical, he's emphatic, he's on it. He's just ferocious. And the 2000 sequences reveal that he's a man he's kind of just running on fumes. You know what I mean? He's post-divorce and chemically dependent. He's on cocaine in the book, doing different kinds of stuff. And professionally, he's just kind of just where he is. He's not really going anywhere. And he doesn't have a worthy adversary, really, to sharpen himself against, The novel's argument is that Hanna was and is defined as much by McCauley as McCauley was by him. And that his absence of a peer-level opponent that is committed just as much as he is, it's left him kind of diminished. Like he's kind of leaning against nothing, so he's falling a little bit. A predator without a peer, reduced to pursuing criminals of shittier order. Some fucking psycho who breaks into people's houses and... Ugh. So the central preoccupation with Heat 2 is what Mann describes as a little strings of micro cause and effect that visibly connect human lives and events across time, which is pretty neat. It is. The novel, it insists with almost a philosophical kind of tenacity, that there are truly no random events. Only consequences whose origins are too distant or obscure to be seen clearly, kind of thing. This, it's very clear in an early exchange between Neil and Chris Shiherlis, in which Neil articulates his theory of invisible causality. He says, some anonymous asshole sees you and mentions something to somebody who talks to somebody else, which gets overheard, and you wind up being jackpotted. little strings of microcause and effect. You can't see them, but they're there. And that's pretty much the entire structural logic of the fucking the novel. That's basically the theme. Events in 1988 Chicago, the safety deposit score, the Wardell investigation, the shipment logs, all that ripples through into 1995, 96, 2000, all that. And then the second major theme occurs with the evolution of criminality from the local, literally drilling into safes. And how that changes to going global and digital. Heat 2 positions the kind of score taking that McCauley's crew perfected, methodical, physically dangerous, operationally brilliant, and that it's a dying art form, and kind of a 19th century bandido, I guess, kind of model of crime that cannot compete with the transnational reach of cyber-enabled criminal networks. Ciudad del Este functions as the novel's emblem of this new order. Like, there are people in the streets that are doing old school crime, and in the city, the higher-ups are doing early computer crimes. Skirting laws, international laws, shipment laws, things like that, bringing in contraband into the city, shipping it out. The evolution from bank robber to Chris represents this most, with his evolution from bank robber to transnational criminal operator, as I said before, in the novel's dramatization of this overall theme. His arrival in Ciudad del Este is described as a moment of genuine liberation. Chris has never felt so free. Now, one of the things that I kind of got to me is its sustained engagement with a particular kind of masculinity. The self-defining go-it-alone lone wolf kind of bullshit. The attachment-refusing philosophy of I'm a man. I can do all this by myself. That kind of shit. It's inherent throughout the book. And also, to be fair, there are some strong female characters throughout, but come on. When the celebrated cop scene between the two guys, it's both it's like a summit and a mutual confession of irremediable limitation. Like, I don't know how to do anything else, is what Hanna, Detective Hanna, says. And McCauley's like, neither do I. I don't much want to either. Like, just very stoic, overly machismo kind of shit. Anyway, that's what the guy thing is. It is a little heavy-handed, but the representation of females in the book, it's like they're secondary, but still also strong. It feels a little lopsided. Now, will this make a good movie? A good follow-up to Heat 2? I don't think so. Like, I think it might be all right if you pick exactly the right actors, which, by the way, sequels never do they? They never pick exactly the right person to play a person who played a role in an extraordinary way. For instance, would you like the sequel to Gone with the Wind being made? There is a sequel. There is a sequel novel to Gone with the Wind. Can you picture a sequel to that coming out? Who's going to play Scarlet? Like, what? Who's going to play Rhett? So, and then how is anyone seeing that movie going to like it? I mean, they're going to compare it to the original, obviously, right out of the gate. And nothing's going to live up to that original. The only people that have ever managed to pull it off was very rare. So, like Aliens, the sequel to Alien, that was pretty good. Godfather 2, that works. These are all pretty stereotypical examples that I'm bringing up here. But for real, this long after Heat, and you're going to be like, hey, I know Robert De Niro's 80 and Al Pacino 80s, so they're not going to play these rough and tumble guys. I mean, in the book Heat 2, Al Pacino's character, Vincent Hanna, he's hit by a fucking car, rolls off, gets up and keeps running. Do you see Al Pacino doing that now? No. So you're going to have to get someone that can play Al Pacino's character. And that is going to be disappointing every fucking time. And then they're going to play it wrong in your head. You're going to be like, of course, you're going to be comparing it to Al Pacino. And you're going to be like, his version is better because, of course, that's the original version. So you're just, that's what you're going to be thinking the whole time. Unless it's written, in this book, it jumps back and forth. How they map that out in a movie, I suppose you can do it. It's been done before, but still, it's going to be a tricky needle to thread. So I don't even know why anyone would want to try. It just makes no sense to me. But it's where we're at. I think it's not going to work out great, but the book is really good. You should check it out. If you're into crime novels, some fiction like that, it is really good. I'll put a link in the description. There's the indie place to buy it from, and the corporate death spreading pee in a bottle for its work. I don't know what I'm saying. Amazon. Terrible, right? Anyway, if you want to do that, that's down in the description too. So, I mean, why? I wasn't even talking about guns.
Hey, if you can't stand the heat,
my God,
get your gun out of the kitchen. That's heat. Pew pew.
Just
classic.
"'Tis I, Sir Reginald von Tillis of the 3rd Royal Fusiliers Company G, here on my day off, mind you, to introduce the segment titled When Life Gives You Lemon. I would like it noted that I am more than slightly annoyed and will be paid double the normal rate, as well as taking the entire contents of the candy bowl in the green room, as Skittles are my favourite and have been since 1974, so suck it. I've earned it, so, without further ado, when life gives you lemon."
Lately, the seemingly cyclical nature of reality has been on my mind a lot. It's cropped up in the most innocuous of ways. Is it a conspiracy, like flushable wipes being invented just to bolster the bottom line of plumbing and septic tank trades? No, it's nothing as sinister as all that. Instead, I offer 2 anecdotes from the life and times of yours truly. Anecdote numero uno. I started smoking when I was 13. Yeah, in hindsight, bad idea. But it was the pinnacle of sultry rebellion at that time, and I thought it might increase my chances at social acceptance, and virginal, fingers crossed, vaginal acceptance. Only the coolest antisocial kids were doing it. I, as a self-proclaimed outcast, wanted that badge of cancer-increasing honor swirling its gray ribbons of Virginia's finest tobacco-scented angst around my head. Best case, it might increase my chances at intercourse. Worst case, just a bunch of cigarette-stained friendships. Those were dice worth rolling in my book. One day, while tucked away in our favorite alcove in the alley behind a strip mall downtown, me and my merry band of smoke-scented ne'er-do-wells were puffing away. Our fuck society attitudes on display as we tried our best not to strike uncool poses. Suddenly, an old guy who ran the comic shop came out to toss his garbage in a dumpster. He proceeded to scold us with a diatribe about smoking, dying early, and that it wasn't safe to be standing around in an alley. "You could get hit by a fucking garbage truck," he said loudly. "You want to die that way? Under a garbage truck? You bunch of fucking assholes!" We didn't listen, nor care, of course. Who does at that age? Instead, we laughed, mocking his angry gesturing while he muttered his way back into his shop. "Don't you have some comics and baseball cards to sell to nerds, loser?" we yelped after him, patting ourselves on the back for being angsty and clever. What did he know, right? Old people are such out-of-touch dickheads, the whole lot of them. Idiots. Anecdote numéro 2. Yesterday, I ventured out into the real world to buy headphones, at my own peril. It was a simple task I've managed to accomplish more than a few times over the years, nothing special. This time was different, as I found myself neck-deep in a seething sea of superfans waiting to get some kind of special Pokémon card to be released that day at that store. What the fuck is all this shit? I just want headphones, I muttered, hoping not to rock the fanatic boat. Whatever, just get my headphones and leave, right? After watching the sales staff cater to the card junkies, I managed to steal 5 seconds of their time long enough to get my headphones. Goddamn Pokémon. Then, as I'm backing my car out to leave this insipid zealot fest, a car filled with them sped up behind me, causing me to slam on my brakes. They proceeded to honk while I sneered back at them. I snapped. I screamed to myself in my car, windows rolled up, ballistic, gesturing wildly, angrily. In my rearview mirror, I could see them in their car laughing, puffing away on their vapes. I lowered my window, screaming, "You could have killed me and you! Is that how you want to die? Plowing into a car that's trying to leave? Not that you're going to live long anyway, puffing on that vape garbage. That shit will give you cancer, you fucking assholes." Afterwards, I thought, what do they know about anything, right? Mocking me like that. Young, out-of-their-depth dickheads, the whole lot of them. Idiots. There's a lesson in all of this somewhere. Let me know if you find it.
Thank you for listening to Elton Reads a Book a Week. If you like this episode, follow me on all the social medias and tell your friends about it. And you can contribute to helping me make these and maybe get enough money together that I can do this for a living. And I would love you forever, almost to the point of sex. I'm kidding. I don't think we'd get that close. I'm not that I'm hungry for money. But then I don't know. Time will tell. But still, you can join Patreon. $4 a month. I got another podcast on there. Extra stuff I throw on there all the time. You can contact me through Patreon, or you can send me an email to eltonreadsabookAweek@gmail.com. And if you're not in a place to contribute, you can read my Substack. You can follow me over there too. That'll help. You could subscribe to that if you like reading this instead of listening. I don't know why you would do that after having listened to it, but whatever. You can read my articles that I write on various things. That's a good way to support me too. I write on vocal.media, and I'm thinking of doing medium.com, and another one. I don't know. I'll have all the links in the description there. You can click on them and see the nifty stuff I've written. And above all else, thank you very, very, very much for listening. I appreciate it so much. And please, read a book. Read a book this week. Finish one, start one, read. Don't let the books die out. That would be fucking terrible. All right. Thank you again for listening. Thank you. Have a great night, day, whenever you're listening. Have a great one of those. All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
So back in 2006, a group of brilliant masterminds decided to rob a Securitas cash depot in Kent, England. First, they kidnapped the depot manager, his wife, and their 8-year-old son, because nothing says professional criminal quite like holding a family hostage at a farm. Then, after they get to the depot, they threaten to light the workers on fire with a lit match. Seriously. Then they casually walked through security and tied up 14 employees. After all that, they stuffed 53 million pounds into a 7.5-ton truck and drove away. Not bad, right? Well, they had to leave 154 million pounds behind because apparently no one thought to bring a second freaking vehicle. Imagine that. It's like you plan the ultimate heist, you put months of planning into this thing, manage to pull it off, and still poop the bed because you didn't account for the sheer volume of cash. In the end, the gang got away with enough to live like kings if they could only figure out how to spend it without getting caught, which, spoiler alert, they didn't. Ridiculous. You know what this tidbit could have used more of? Pew pew! So good. So good.